Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Careers Podcast. On today's episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk with Jacob Crawford. Jacob is the owner of Honey Creative, located in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Honey is a ad agency that Jacob created just last year, and you'll see from this conversation that Honey is a different kind of ad agency because Jacob is a different kind of creative. He's one with a mission and a purpose, and he's looking to serve the needs of some overlooked industries, overlooked companies or organizations. And so it was really just an honor to get to know Jacob and hear his story, and I'm excited to share it with you now. Check it out. Jacob Crawford, welcome to Creating Creators Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've actually been following the podcast for a hot minute. Long time listener, first time caller,
There
and
you go.
glad to be on the show.
Awesome. Hey guys, let me take just a moment to thank our sponsor, AmFirst. AmFirst for the past 90 years has been instrumental in supporting families and small businesses right here in Birmingham and beyond. I really am thankful to have such an incredible partner in sharing the stories of Birmingham area creatives, as well as just supporting the Birmingham communities in general. Thank you so much to our sponsor, and thank you to you, our audience, for watching, for liking, for sharing. It really does mean a lot. And I really couldn't do this without your encouragement. And now I'm so thankful to be able to do this with the support that we're receiving from AmFirst. So thank you so much, AmFirst. And now back to our conversation. Well, I really do appreciate it, man. I know you're based in Tuscaloosa, correct?
Mhm. Correct.
Nice. I do a little bit of work out in Tuscaloosa with Tuscaloosa County Schools. So that's one of my
Sweet,
clients that I work with. So love
sweet.
Tuscaloosa. Love to
Yep.
go downtown. Tuscaloosa's got such a great vibe. Obviously, the
Mhm.
university there. I understand that you went to the university. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I went and got my undergrad and my master's at the University of Alabama. Um, which, given the industry I work in and have worked in for like the last 15 years, it didn't quite match up, but I don't know. It all kind of worked out. It's really interesting. And I do weirdly use my masters like every day.
What is your undergrad and master's in?
So my undergraduate, I was a split degree, double major in theater and English, which I ended up finishing in English. I ended up dropping the theater in my last year. Um, but my master's is in Renaissance literature. Um,
And you
so
said you used this.
yeah, weirdly enough, almost every day. So I went into my master's program to study Shakespeare. To study I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. To study how to write and create characters and create emotional moments, um, like Shakespeare. I was really fascinated with the deep emotional threads that he was able to weave, and that actually spun into actually focusing in Machiavelli because I speak Italian and learning a lot about Machiavelli in my thesis. It's kind of a long story, but um, I was directing a production of La Mandragola, the Mandrake, which is one of the plays he wrote. And I was a little frustrated with the translation because I was like, this isn't getting it right. It's English, so people can understand it, but it's not getting the nuance. It's not getting the critique that Machiavelli is trying to communicate, and how power interacts in society. And so I was talking to the head of the Italian program, Barbara Gutterecci, and she was like, "Well, if you're so mad about it, why don't you translate it yourself?" And I was like, "What if I do? And what if I make it my thesis?" And she was like, "Why don't you?" And so I guess, like all things in my life, I come from a place of anger, and
It's a good source of
yeah,
energy, at least, right?
yeah. Yeah, and so I translated it out, and it taught me a lot about how people interact with people, It taught me a lot about communication. It taught me a lot about branding. It taught me a lot about creativity. One of Machiavelli's biggest things was in his lifetime, he wanted to translate, adapt, and create original works. He thought that that was the part of learn. That was how he was going to learn the creative process based on his mentors, who were Roman and Greek, and observing how they achieved kind of this mastership of creativity. And so my translation of Machiavelli was kind of my own first step in tracing Machiavelli's steps and learning creativity.
Wow.
So in a roundabout way, and of course, I guess there's an argument to be made that Machiavelli may be one of the world's first ad men. I'm not sure. He really had to sell the prince to the Medici family because he was exiled and really wanted to get back into Italy proper. Wanted to get back into Florence. It never really happened. But yeah, so that's kind of the roundabout way of how I got into working.
The the only thing that I can even like speak to about any of that you just said, because it's way over my head,
It's all good.
is you bite your thumb at me.
Ah,
I bite
yeah,
I bite
from
my thumb,
Romeo
but
and
not at
Juliet.
you. But you bite your thumb nonetheless. That's
Yeah.
the that was when I was in high school. I was assigned the role of Mercutio, if I'm
Yeah.
saying that correct.
Yeah, Mercutio.
And there was I forget the other guy's name. Started with a Ben something.
Benvolio?
Um, yeah, Benvolio. And so this other classmate of mine was Benvolio, and that was our favorite part of the whole thing was
Yeah.
you bite your thumb at me, I bite my
Yeah.
thumb, but not at you. But you bite your thumb nonetheless. I have no idea what it means. It seems like biting your thumb is basically flipping somebody off back then.
It's flipping a bird. That's
Yeah, yeah,
essentially, yeah. You flipping me off? Yeah, I'm flipping you off. Why are you flipping me off? Because I feel like
yeah.
flipping you off. Kinda it's that
Check.
kind of
Yeah,
thing. And yeah, that actually gets to a fun point. Like I've directed I I know we're talking about creativity in general today. I guess
yeah.
we're starting with theater. Um, but in my time directing Shakespeare, it was like one of my favorite moments. I tell this. I've actually told this story a lot lately. I was doing Hamlet, and I had a kid come up to me at intermission because I always introduce the shows as director, like, "Hey, hope you like it." So a kid knew I was the director. He's like 7, 8 years old, and comes up and he's like, "I didn't know this show was supposed to be funny." Um, and I was like, "Yeah, it's a funny show." And he's like, "I thought it was supposed to be sad." And I'm like, "Well, the sad part's coming." But yeah, and that's really indicative or a story of what I found a lot doing Shakespeare was it is really funny. It's a really like people think of Shakespeare as kind of stuffy or highfalutin or, elevated somehow, but he was producing like the It's Always Sunny of his time. He was
Yeah.
producing the Seinfeld of his time. Um,
Well, it was supposed to be very common vernacular of the
mhm.
time, correct? I mean, it was
It's a
supposed to be
it's a
something
little
that
elevated
everyone.
because yeah,
Okay.
you got Queen Elizabeth sitting in the audience, so you gotta elevate a little bit, and there's
But
poetry in there.
it was meant
Yeah,
to be understood by everybody,
mhm,
relatively
yeah,
speaking.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, when I'm working with actors, that's kind of in the vein of what I tell them is understand what you're talking about. Even if you lose the language, understand what you're talking about, understand the scene, understand what you're trying to communicate, and people will pick up the language. It's crazy, and I also got this when I was directing a show, I forget which one, where somebody came up and they were like, "I didn't have a hard time understanding that at all." And it's like, well, if it's well done and the actors are in the moment and they're actually, like, living in it, you don't have to understand the these or thous.
Yeah.
You
It
pick it up.
reminds me of the movie Life. What is it? I'm about to is it Life is Beautiful? Life is
Ah,
Beautiful, the
yeah.
Italian Holocaust movie?
Mhm,
Yeah, like that movie, I remember watching it the first time with subtitles, and it was incredible. After a while, it's like you're not even having to read.
mhm,
It's the emotion, it's the
mhm.
expression of it all that you start understanding without. understanding, if that makes sense. It's like
Absolutely.
you feel what they're saying. Um,
Absolutely.
the subtitles help, and
Yeah.
then when I think I watched it later with my wife, and we decided to do English dubbed, and that was great too.
Yeah.
But it is pretty neat how so much of communication is physical and
Mhm.
visual. So all
Mhm.
right, well I think that's a
Yeah.
great segue
I'll give
into
you I'll give
basically
you a
the rest of your
soundbite.
stuff.
I was about to
Okay,
say,
go
I'll give
for
you
it.
a soundbite before we move forward,
Yeah.
because you really reminded me of something, and, um, great creative transcends language. Great creative, when it's done really well, speaks to you on an emotional, almost like metaphysical level. To speak to what you said with the, I believe the Quaron film, Life is Beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and it's true for, say, Schindler's List as well. I could watch Schindler's List on mute and still get all the emotional beats.
Mm,
My wife watches a lot of okay, here's an example, Godzilla Minus One, great film that's come out in the last few years. A lot of people write it off because it's a Godzilla film, but it's actually a great film about what happens after Japan loses the war. And the more majority of its time spent talking about what happens after Japan loses World War II, and what does it mean to be a suicide bomber or a kamikaze who didn't kill himself in the war, for the country. And again, you can put that movie on mute and feel the emotional beats, feel the defeat, feel um, the feeling of not living up to what you were supposed to, and everybody in society judging you over it. You don't have to
mhm,
understand Japanese for it. And in my work, whether it's funny, whether it's sad, that's what we try to communicate at Honey, is emotional beats that are so strong that you don't have to have the volume on, that you can just see it or you can just hear it, and you still pick up on it and it still moves you.
mm,
Preferably in a direction towards aligning with the brand voice and buying product. That's kind of the razor's edge of advertising, but at the end of the day, we're artists and trying to communicate emotion.
mm. I like it. I like it. There's so much I feel like we could just ignore the slides entirely and just keep this going. But I try to there's a few points that I do want to hit in your story.
Absolutely.
So let me jump into the slides and then we'll see where it goes from there. I
Oh,
won't feel like I have
Lord.
to totally hold on to it. You like that photo down the
Oh,
bottom?
Lord.
Dude, you gave
Man,
me some good stuff to draw from. I
I
appreciate
appreciate it.
your Facebook. Um, let's see, what would I say it as? Sort of like your um, BTS of your life that
Yeah.
Facebook has.
Yeah. Kinda, yeah. No,
So,
there's a story with every photo there, so I'm just like, "Oh, man, he picked those."
well,
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing some of the stories. So, first of all, let's just talk about who is Jacob Crawford. Tell me, like, how do you define yourself when somebody asks you, like, hey, what do you do? Who are you? Or whenever you introduce yourself to people.
Yeah, these days, as I guess, a public-facing professional in the world of adults, I would say, that my name is Jacob Crawford, and I am, founder, creative director of Honey, which is a full stack creative advertising agency based in Tuscaloosa. To my knowledge, we're the first creative full stack creative ad agency. There are others who work in the Tuscaloosa area who cover part of what we do or a little bit different slice. I'll give shout outs to a couple of them. Seed Creative, who
Yeah,
I believe
George.
has been, I was
Yeah,
about to say, George has been on
yeah,
the show. They focus in video. They do a fantastic job in video. I don't even try to compete on that front. I'm just like, y'all got it.
yeah.
But you've got Seed, you've got Total Calm, who's also in town. They focus more, their clientele is more medical or pharmaceutical, to my knowledge, and they do a lot more traditional style advertising, print, billboards, that kind of stuff. You've got a handful of freelancers in town. There's a very small branding agency in town called Howdy. We've actually hung out and we're actually planning to grab coffee next week. But Ben's good people. Um, but there's nobody in town that quite does what we do, which is tell the story across mediums in a consistent way. Um, in the same style as, say, like a New York ad agency. If you're, looking for if you're a brand who's looking to rebrand and then build a website, build a social media presence, and then get ads out there, um, a lot of times in Tuscaloosa, you're going to 5 different people.
Yeah.
And what we wanna do is pull all of that in-house so that your social media profile matches your website, matches the 30-second spots that you put out, and they're all telling a complete story so that you say, have the setup on your social media page and the punchline is on your website, kind of situation. And it's not always jokes, but, like, that's kind of the structure that we play
Yeah.
with. Um, and we do a little bit of everything, which is it's fun. It's different. Every day's different.
And what
Um,
what what kind of role do you see yourself playing in all of this? I know obviously, um, whenever we're starting out, like in my business, for instance, I end up playing or wearing every hat at some
mhm,
point, most likely. So I'm sure there's
mhm,
times where you do that,
mhm.
but ideally, if things go the way you want it to on in a specific job, what's your specific role that you normally serve or prefer to serve?
Yeah. Um, long term, like you mentioned right now, I wear a lot of hats. I tell people I do everything from photography to creative direction to cleaning toilets, and that's true. I mean, if there's something that needs to be done, hey, I'm the accountant. Hey, I'm the
Yeah,
janitor.
yeah,
I'm also the guy on set directing the shoot. Um, long term, I would like to fade into a creative director role. Directing has always been the thing that just it's the closest I can find in my life to being a magician. Um, to see moving parts, copywriters, art directors, costumers, makeup artists, you name it, models, you name it, coming together to tell one consistent, coherent story feels like a miracle. It feels like magic to finally see that finished product out and about. It blows my mind every time. And my favorite part of that process, or where had the most fun in that process, is kind of being the cat wrangler of sorts to make sure the schedules line up, make sure that the general creative direction is pushing in a certain way to um, kind of be assistants and get out of the way of my copywriters and art directors when I need to and trust them. Um, that's my favorite part of the process. I love being
yeah.
able to sit back when the whole thing's done and being like, "Wow, we did that. That's pretty cool." Which always happens when I drive past billboards we work on. I don't know why it's billboards specifically, but I guess it's because it's physically, tangibly out in the world, and you see it, and you're like, "Wow, how many cars drove by this? That's insane." Um, but the same thing with like 30-second spots on TV where you see it and you're just like, "Wow, we did that? There was like 4 of us that worked on that, and now millions of people see it? That's insane." That's the closest I've found in my life to magic.
Pulling a rabbit out of a hat, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me, sorry, I've got a couple of questions over here I've
Go
written
for it.
down that I wanted to refer to at some point, but I'm really bad at this part of it because I
Oh,
like
good.
to be locked into the conversation, and then I feel like this pulls me out to some degree. So I apologize for that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, this is pulling me out way longer than I should. Okay.
Good.
Um, let me move on to this because I got
Okay.
some other questions. We've touched on this already with your journey a little bit,
Mhm.
but what would you say was probably in your journey? What was something that really caused you to think I'm ready to step out and start my own? Like I know, honey, you really just
Hmm.
started last year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
2025?
Yeah. So I'll back way up. Beginning
Yeah,
of
yeah.
time. First I was born. No. When a man loves a woman very much.
Hmm.
No, no. Too far back. Go forward. So I worked at the University of Alabama for 3 years in strategic communications. I was the marketing strategist for the university, which was fun. It was a lot, but it was fun. I was director of communications at United Way for a short period of time, and then came back to the university for another 2 years. And towards the end of my tenure at UA, there was kind of a rumbling conversation between me and other creatives in town, which I was president of AAF for a hot minute, American Advertising Federation. So, I got a lot of access to creatives on a local level. And one of the conversations that kept coming back up was, man, I wish there was a creative ad agency in town that I could apply to that treated us like human beings, treated us better. Um, Now, I won't go too far down that rabbit hole right now, but
Right.
there was kind of this consistent rumbling over a few years of, man, I wish there was just somebody out here who paid us better, who treated us better, who trusted our expertise. And it was towards the end of my tenure at UA that I hit a certain level of screw it, let's do it. I'm crazy. Let's go. you know, um, to I guess to harken back to Machiavelli, Fortuna was calling. Fortune was calling, and as Machiavelli says, when fortune's running past you, you just have to grab onto her. And so that's what we did. That's what I did. I sat down with a buddy of mine who ended up becoming something of a business partner. We sat together in December 2024, like 3 days before Christmas, and they were like, um, "Hey, I can't do this anymore. We got to do something better, like ASAP." And I said, "Yep." And so literally sitting in a Starbucks, we came up with the concept of honey. We didn't have a name for it yet. That came like a few weeks later, but we kind of had the general business plan drawn up that December based on our, 12, 15 years experience working in the industry and what we wanted out of the industry. Not just as people who work in it, but what do we want for our clients? How do we want that client experience to be better? Because we had both worked at agencies, we'd both worked in house, we'd both worked as freelancers, and so both of us had a kind of full spectrum view of what the ad industry was, or is rather. And we were like, we can do better. We can treat people better across
Yeah.
the board. And so that was kind of our marching statement. That was our noble purpose. To quote on a friend of mine who's a speaker, she's big on noble purpose, and that's what we've stuck to ever since.
Let me
And that's yeah. Go ahead.
let me ask you this: with whenever you, I guess, began at least considering even doing this, what fears did you have then that you later found to be true?
Yeah, all of them, every single one of them. Actually, yeah. So I've actually been invited to speak at a professional group, and they were like, "So, do a hour-long presentation on starting a business." And I was like, "It's easy. It'd be one slide. It'd say don't." Um, there you go. There's the whole slide. You can have your 59 minutes and 30 seconds back. No, so honestly, financials scare the
Hmm.
heck out of me. Taxes scare the heck out of me. I am so lucky to have a wife who is way more type A than me. Because she kicks my butt and makes sure that we get all of our financials straight. And we just turned in our taxes yesterday as of this recording. So here's hoping we don't go out of business and owe the government a bazillion dollars. Um, but I was here's one that wasn't true. I was expecting to be alone.
Hmm.
Um, I was expecting to be alone on day one. I was expecting this to I don't wanna say fall flat. I don't think at any point I thought that Honey was going to fail, but I expected there not to be a community waiting on the other side, and that's not what I found at all. What I found was there is a small army of people who are out there craving exactly what we do, and it's been really validating to see it go over so well in the last now 12 months as of 4 days ago, 12 months. Um, it's crazy to think that this was even possible 2 years ago, back when this was a brain baby.
Yeah.
But here it is, and we're doing it, Harry.
Well,
We're doing it.
Congratulations, definitely. I started in January 1st of 2025. I
See.
started my business, so I did the same thing. I stepped out from my full time job, went out on Christmas break, and never went back. I mean, I've gone
Same,
back, but
yeah.
I've gone back to say hey and see how people are doing.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's it's been exciting and it's been terrifying. I
Yes.
feel like I have never experienced the type of stress that I've gone through with this
Mhm.
now. But at the same time, I feel like there's so much freedom um, and energy in the sense that it's like I know what I'm giving my energy towards,
Mhm.
versus before I was giving my energy towards, you know, an entity that didn't necessarily immediately return, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So,
No, that
um,
makes perfect sense.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, I can yes and on that. We were actually talking yesterday, because we have our team meetings on Mondays. We go out, we grab a couple margaritas, and we go through the roster of
it's my kind of meeting.
it's the most chaotic team meeting ever, but we do follow Robert's rules of order, so we're on it. Maybe loosely after 2 margaritas, but, we keep notes, we keep everything together. But we were talking about this yesterday, and I would say that both the best and worst days of my life have happened in the last year.
Mm,
Um, but I keep moving because the best days absolutely outweigh the worst. Absolutely outweigh the worst. Um, it I'm gonna get teared up, man. Um, it makes me so incredibly happy every time because I do site visits at least once a week with all of our clients. Like, that is a non-negotiable for me. I'm going to pop by and see how people are doing. Even if I'm not the person shooting it, even if I'm not the person on the account, I am gonna pop by and say, "What's up?" Um, to pop into mom and pop restaurants, small businesses in town, and get a hug every time I come in the door is so valuable to me. Um, to see like okay, example, Piggly Wiggly, we work with Piggly Wiggly, and when we first took on the account, every time we came in with a camera, if someone had a camera, they were like, "Nope, nope, no pictures, no, get
right.
no,"
Yeah.
and the workers would physically hide from us. But I just went in last week to grab Valentine's photography to highlight the employees, and the craziest thing, they actually came to me. Like, I had 2 or 3 people who just watched me walk in the door and like, "Ooh, ooh, come here, come here, come here. I need a new picture. I wanna send it to my granddaughter." Or I wanna, and they came up, gave me a big old hug, big group hug when I walked in the door, again, in the middle of a grocery store.
Mm.
Like, I didn't know what to do. I was just kinda paralyzed from it. I was, like, shocked. But those are the moments that make this job entirely worth it. 100% worth it, and I would do it all over again just to get a taste of that, and it's every time we walk on set. It's
Yeah.
every time we walk out to a business.
I recently have seen a lot in social media pushing like the purpose behind video content or the purpose behind content in general. So much of it is about trust, building trust
Mhm,
with potential clients, building trust with current clients. But I would say it's also sort of the behind the scenes kind of purpose, like
mhm,
why are you going in? How are you building those relationships? It's all about building trust to
mhm,
say, like that first time whenever you came in with the camera, they're like, I don't trust this guy. I don't know what he's going to make me look like or make the business look like or catch me in the moment. Um, and then once you build that trust and they see what you're really doing, then it's like, oh, this is somebody I
mhm.
can lean on. This is somebody that I can allow to come into my world a little bit. And
Yeah,
so that's what it's all about, those relationships and trust.
yeah. I'll give you another story, I guess a soundbite, if you will, because this happened last week, or I think last week. All my weeks are running together, dude. Um, so we take on a pro bono project every quarter. And it has to be of a certain size for us to really take it on, because we want to make a genuine difference. It's one of the foundational things that we put in when we started the business was if John Lewis's office can take an hour a week to do pro bono law work, then we can take one major project per quarter and do it for free for a nonprofit. Um, because, well, one, nonprofit funding has been cut on the federal level pretty substantially. And as someone who is a director at a nonprofit, communications director, albeit, I know that on the local level, nonprofits use 110 to 120% of their budget. So if any of it's cut, they're cutting programs,
Right.
period. Like they're either not paying their people or having to give people pay cuts. They're not updating technology. They're not putting paint on the walls because their goal is to help the community. So all of that to say is I was shooting as our quarterly project for first quarter 2026. We were working on um, the Empowering Women's Conference here in Tuscaloosa over at the Bryant Conference Center, and they had me on doing photography. Just photography, just keeping it easy. And it was interesting watching the shift towards photography throughout the conference. I mean, I had a really good hype man, which was like or hype woman, I guess, and like 6 or 7 speakers who came up back to back and were just like, "You are powerful. You are worth it. It doesn't matter what you look like. You're all beautiful human beings." And so, as a photographer, that's great for me because I've got hype over my shoulder. Um, I'm sorry. They turned me on airplane mode. Um, but it was so interesting throughout the day to watch people just kind of melt into just being beautiful human beings. At first, you get the side glance, like whenever I'm taking a photo, but as it went along, and it got to the hold on, let me tell this guy to stop.
I had to put mine on do not disturb because I keep getting text messages going off.
He's gonna text me back and say, "I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "No, I said stop texting." Um, period. So you'll hear another ding in a second of him saying sorry. Um, but sorry, it got to the point that, I take the photos, I look down to make sure they're in focus, and I got to the point where it was starting to look like Renaissance good. Like people just like they melted away and that trust had been built to the point that I reached out to the CEO or the person in charge and was like, "I know we're getting late in the day. I know this thing ends at 5. If I can tune up 10 photos really, really fast in Lightroom, would you be down to put it on a slideshow and just let it play? Because I think it would be powerful for these people to see how beautiful they are through a photographer's eyes." Because so many of these people, I mean, we're all on social media. We know how social media tells us we should look and kind of passively or not so passively shames us for how we look.
Mm,
Whether you're overweight, whether you have a certain size, certain sized face, whether you have a certain skin tone, it doesn't, there's always something to critique. And I was like, I would love. I'm not going to tune up. I'm not going to remove acne. I'm not going to, chase wrinkles. I just want to put people up as they are. And it was such a cool moment to walk up on stage. They had me walk up on stage. I was like, "No, I'm a photographer. Don't make me do that." But to walk up on stage and just put up a slide deck, 3 seconds a piece for 20 photos and say, "This is you how I see you. Aren't you
mm.
beautiful?" Um,
That's such a great. That's. I mean, it's a great idea in general, just to allow people to, first of all, see the sort of beauty of the day and what the
mhm.
event's been, but also to in a moment of building confidence in people, to add that
Yeah.
here's the beauty I see. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Props on
And
that.
and it gets to two things. You mentioned trust. The other is vulnerability. Both from me, the photographer who has not done a good job taking 10 seconds per photo to quickly edit photos, but to capture that vulnerability in others. So often when I shoot photography, that's what makes the best photos is vulnerability. People letting their guard down and just being authentically themselves for a second. And sometimes that's the shot between shots. That's why we shoot on burst. But those are always the best photos. Those are always the ones that emotionally move people because they're the most real, and people connect with them. They see you in a real moment and they go, "Oh, I felt like that before."
Yeah. One of the tricks I used to always do in interviews, I worked for my local school system, and we would do these interviews for Teacher of the Year.
Mhm.
And most other like coworkers or even students a lot of times, but the coworkers were usually some of the best. They would come in with a script, right? And they'd be like, can you like hold this for me in front of the lens? I'm like, no, I'm just going to ask you some questions, just conversation. Well, the whole time during the conversation, they're trying to remember what they wrote on the script. And anyway, by the end of it, I would take my earbuds out as I was monitoring audio and I'd hang them on the camera. And then I'd say, okay, now tell me for real, like, are they really that good? And in those moments, they would drop their guard. They'd forget about any script and they would go into the reality of how they feel about these people. And it was that
Mhm.
very thing. It was like, oh, good, the camera's off. I never touched the camera. I just hung my
Right.
AirPods, or not AirPods, but my
Mhm.
earbuds on it. But that suddenly the camera's off. It's just me and you having a conversation, and they would end up opening up in such a genuine way. And that was
Mhm.
usually the best part and what I would end up using in the video, at least in some part. A lot of times they get emotional in it even. So
Mhm.
I agree
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah, I think my favorite interview I've done in the last 5 years, we were working on, a campaign for Bama Blitz for the University of Alabama, and, for those unfamiliar with Bama Blitz, it's a yearly fundraising drive that each college at the university puts on, or each organization at the university puts on, to raise money for what's called a passion project. So each college or athletics or whomever, picks a cause that's important to them and then does a campaign for it. So 2024, the College of Communication Information Sciences where I worked, it was first gen students. And you know, I could wax about that campaign in general. We did a for first gen by first gen campaign, so everybody who touched the campaign was first gen, which was kind of
That's
powerful in and
cool.
of
Yeah.
itself. And I found out during the process that I'm first gen because I'm talking with first year studies and stuff, trying to get all the numbers right. And they're like, "Well, technically, if your parents only had an associate's degree, then you're technically first gen too." I'm like, "Oh wow, okay, well then literally everyone who touched it was first gen." Um, but we did an interview portion for the video, the 30-second video spots, and it was just that. It was super simple setup, camera 2 feet away, um, simple audio, just a simple lav, and it was just asking questions and talking. And like you said, a lot of them come in with a script, and I was just like, "Let's just put it down and talk." They're like, "Well, is the camera running?" And not that I am manipulative, but I'd be like, "Dude, we're just gonna talk real quick and we'll get into the interview later.
Yeah.
Um, we're just gonna hang out." And it was 15 minutes, and we would talk about their story as a first gen student. Of course, it'd always start with them being like, "Okay, I need to remember this for later. So when you actually ask me, but here's what I would say." I'm like, "Dude, let's just talk." But the last question, and this kind of came organically in the first interview, was if you could thank somebody in your life on how you got to where you are right now,
Mm.
sitting in this room, who would you thank and what would you say? And pretend that I am that person. Speak to me as if I'm that person. And it was such a powerful moment because by that point we'd been talking for about 15 minutes. They'd let their guard down. And by the time they got to that question, it just kind of hit them. Often they cried, to the point that I had a box of tissues on retainer. Um, And often I cried too because they would say just the most incredible stuff, but it was always raw and it was always real. And what we found in the postmortem of that campaign after we released everything was the kind of community that it had built from it. That we had people watching the video on Instagram or YouTube or wherever we published it, and they were like, "I didn't realize that there was that big of a first gen presence. I didn't realize that their struggles are my struggles, and I've made friends through this campaign I didn't even realize." It was so powerful to see people connect, and it all comes down to this raw, emotional, vulnerable moment because they trusted the conversation that we were having. And of course,
Mm.
like I always do with interviews, is I'll actually flip the camera around after we're done and be like, "Hey, this is what you look like through my eyes." And they're like, "Oh, well, that looks pretty good. Uh, I approve it." And I'm like, "Wait till you see the final. Then you might not." Um, but yeah, it's those 2 points, and that's really the heart of so much that we do is trust. Ooh, I'm about to flip you a bird.
You
Trust.
bite your thumb at me?
Yeah. Um, Trust and vulnerability. If we can build those 2 things with a client, then the ads will make themselves.
Agreed. Agreed. That's awesome, man. Well, listen, I want to talk about Honey. I want to talk about the
Yeah.
brand. You've talked about the organization. You mentioned earlier that you hadn't named it whenever you had that first meeting. So let's talk about where did the name come from? What does this mean? And feel free to touch on this photo shoot of you dripping with honey. And we don't
Yeah.
see very much of the photo, so we don't see
Good.
your bare skin, but how bare did we get for this shoot? I'm curious to
Um,
know.
I'll answer the question on the shoot, and then I'll back up and we'll talk about honey.
Yeah.
So my friend, I'll shout her out, Sarah Pennington, is a photographer here in Tuscaloosa. Sorry, I had to make my light come back on. Sarah, I will start over. Um, Sarah Pennington, who is a photographer in Tuscaloosa, she works with Capstone Living magazine, and they wanted to do a feature on honey, specifically on me and my wife. But she was asking, and she was like, "I love working with creatives. Well, let's get creative." And I'm like, "You don't even know how weird we're about to get." And she was like, "Well, what if I covered you in honey?" And I was like, "What if we did it naked?" And she, she was like, without missing a beat, Sarah's awesome. Without missing a beat, she was like, "What if we did it naked but with a hat?" And I was like, "That'd be hilarious. Let's go." So that's what we did. I didn't get totally naked, but and
Okay.
it actually had a practical reason as well because honey is sticky, and honey gets everywhere when you drizzle it on your head. Which I could tell stories about having to walk with honey running down the back, and
Gosh,
the noise it makes when you try to walk. It's not fun.
that sounds awful. Oh,
Oh,
I
man.
can't stand the idea of sticky stuff being
Right.
all over you like that.
Yeah, but we went to the district room, which is a venue space downtown. We called in one of the guys who was actually working in the kitchen. He came out. He was the one who drizzled honey on me while Sarah shot. So it was very much a well, anybody that works on photography shoots knows that it's held together with duct tape. Um, anything not in frame is chaos.
Right.
That's
Right.
just how it goes.
You
Video,
should see
film.
around this frame right now. It's just
Yeah.
all
Oh yeah. I mean, even with my crappy little impromptu setup, there's wires and crap everywhere. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of the story behind that. And she was just like, let's just get funky with it. And so we were just hitting fun stuff, doing fun stuff, dripping honey on me in different ways. I found out the hard way that honey's water soluble and actually came off super easy, super fast, and came
good.
out of all my clothes. It was not I was totally expecting to just throw it all away. And then I went to the bathroom, was like, "Oh, it comes right out. Okay. All right."
Yeah. I think you
Um,
should have named your company Maple Syrup or Glue or something like that, and then seen what happened.
maybe, maybe we'll rebrand as Glue.
Super glue.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, after watching the latest season of The Pit, I think I'm gonna stay away from super glue.
Oh
Um,
man, my wife's in the middle of it right now, so
oh, it's so
I'm
good.
yeah, she loves it. She's medical, so for her especially, it's good.
Oh,
So
man, it's like the bear, but for an ER.
yeah.
Um,
All right, so tell me about honey.
yeah, so,
What's
honey.
the origin of this name?
Yeah, so, my wife is Filipino, and I don't know if this is a trend in Filipino culture, but it's definitely a trend in her family where a lot of people in the household have different names other than their name. It's kinda like a nickname. And Angelique, my wife, her nickname is Honey. Everybody calls her Honey. Almost
Mm,
nobody calls her Angelique. It's either Honey or Hun. And so when we were starting the business, that was the first thing that came to mind is like, what are we working for? And she is so much smarter than me, and she is so much kinder than me. And if I'm going to start a business where I'm working for that kind of person, then I need to try and emulate that person. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. We name it after Honey. We name it after my wife. So that every time I put on a shirt, put on a hat, uh, put on a backpack that has a patch on it, I see her name. I know who I'm working for, and I know who I'm trying to be.
That's cool. That's cool. I think it's such a great looking name. Talk a little bit about that, the actual design
Oh
of
yeah.
the word itself.
Yeah. So there's a few Easter eggs in that logo.
Okay.
But I'll walk through the design. It was all freehand. I drew it on a napkin. I actually drew a couple on a napkin, and then the first one I drew, I circled and was like, "Nah, it's the one." Which I've never ever had that happen in all my years of designing anything. Usually we go through like 200 and then finally have the spark. That's the thing. This is probably the first time where I got it on the first try and then tried to do variants. It was like, no, I think I like the original. And so pulled it into Illustrator, vectored it, traced it, and got it going. There we go. Um, sorry, I had to wait on this.
I love the fluidity
Yeah,
of the image itself. Like it's
yeah.
obviously there's a play on the way that honey drips
Hmm.
or moves. So I see some of
Right.
that in it. But it really is just a beautiful lettering as well as just the composition of it. I love the O, the way that it's sort of
Yeah.
down in the bottom under the H and N. Like
Hmm.
it's really well done.
Yeah, well, thank you. The O is actually, if you were to pull it up in Illustrator, is technically a hexagon,
Okay.
because of honeycomb.
Okay.
But basically, I created a shape, 6 points, and then just smoothed and smoothed and smoothed until it kind of had that oblong kind of drippy look. But that's kind of a shout out to a honeycomb shape, a hexagon shape. Um, and as a shout out to my friend Mark Berry, who's the director of Minerva, he worked on the Lusa Brewing or Lusa Brews logo several years back, and he hit a smiley face inside the logo. And I did the same thing with honey. I just thought that was so cool, and it matched the easygoing vibe that we try to create, the kind vibe that we try to create. So hidden inside the negative space of the E and the Y, we put
Yeah.
a smiley face, as a sort of subtle, like, this is who we are.
Yeah. I
We try to
love
be
it,
good
man.
people.
I think it has such a great look to it and no one can see and say honey without being happy. You know,
Mhm.
it's sort of that lighthearted um sweet kind of energy to it. So,
Yeah.
props on that, man. How's it been received? How was that transition like
Uh,
actually getting it established?
yeah, we're starting a shirt shop. Everywhere we go, people are like, "Oh man, it's a sick logo. Can I have, like, I wish it was on a t-shirt, or I wish it was on a hat." And so, yeah, we made shirts and hats. But we've
I
also got
was
other fun designs that we play with.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say I've got some hats coming up later in it, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was thinking I was like I know
Oh,
I've
the
got
story on
some in
those
there,
hats
so
is interesting. One of the things we try to do is we try to locally source everything. So everything on the hats was locally sourced. The patches, we made them at Druid City Makerspace down the street, um, by hand. And I helped work on it. So it's kind of one of those rare situations where the merch is actually made by the people who work on the brand. And Makerspace is a client of ours. They worked at Trade for that one, and they were just like, "We would just love to put this on a patch." And I was like, "If you put it on a patch, I'll put it on a hat." There we go. Um,
I
yeah,
like it.
yeah. We try to stay hyper local in that way, and we try to, you know, everything that we have is made locally for the people here. We try to stick to that, similar to how a lot of, I guess, to get back to the honey metaphor, um, there are different varieties of honey all over the US based off the type of flowers that bees propagate. And so we kind of think in those terms as well. Like, our particular brand of honey is local to the flowers, so to speak, of our community. So we try to be a reflection of it.
And I see the phrase contains honey.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. Like
Yeah.
what's the mindset there? I mean, that's your website is
Mhm.
containsHoney.com. Like
Yeah.
what does that really mean?
So it really started with our first web client. We built the first website for Harry's Bar, which I don't know if you've ever been to Harry's, but it's legendary for its own reasons. Um, I think Jake, the owner, could speak to that more than I can. But when we were building the website, I was talking to my business partner. I was like, "Wouldn't it be cheeky if we did something like this website lovingly contains a little honey in it, or something like that, like a ingredient label to stick at
Yeah.
the bottom of the website, contains honey."
It
Um,
sounds like what's it called? This product may contain
yeah,
nuts. You know, it's like
yeah, it's exactly
allergy
that.
warning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so so that's kind of where that started was, also Honey Creative LLC, all those were taken on Instagram, so we're
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, screw it, we're not even gonna try." So a little bit after we did that first site back in January, before we were officially LLC'd, we were already playing with that idea of lovingly contains honey or has a hint of honey or made with honey. Um and so when it came to our website or our Instagram or whatever, that's just kind of what stuck, so to speak, was let's treat it like an ingredient. Um, and that kind of matriculates into the work itself. The work that we do is really a reflection of the business that we work on. We're just an ingredient in that.
Mm.
And so everything we do contains honey because we worked on it and touched it. But whether it's Harry's Bar or any of the other clients we work with, Piggly Wiggly, Mediterranean Sandwich Co. Um, we're just trying to tease out the authentic versions of themselves. That's really all we're trying to do.
It's a really neat. I mean, I'm going to use the phrase sales pitch, but it sounds like it's so much more than just a sales pitch. It sounds like it's a philosophy. But in regards to a sales pitch, like going to a client and saying, "Hey, we're going to show you and we're gonna curate you with a little dash of honey in there. You know, like just
Mhm,
it's gonna contain honey. It's not gonna be honey. It's really
mhm.
gonna be you. So I mean, I think most businesses would value that and appreciate the idea of capturing their brand and their story in a honey kind of way,
Yeah.
but not necessarily overpoweringly honey.
Yeah, and it's something I talk to my team about a lot, and this is kind of our departure into "do people right" territory, which is kind of our motto or slogan. We may talk about that later, I don't know. I don't know what's in the question, so
Well, if you look closely at
Um
the slide, that is the next question. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Sweet.
and
I am blind as a bat. Ha ha.
it's
Um,
okay. It was small.
but, that's all tied up in that, which is it's not about us. And I talk about this with my team a lot is, it's not. At the end of the day, it's about the brand. It's about the businesses that we work with. And a lot of the businesses we work with have I mean, we work with a generator company right now who has had experiences in the past where the ad agency they worked with made it all about them.
Mm,
Didn't listen to feedback, didn't listen to what the client wanted. And nobody knows a business better than the person that's working in the business. That's 100% of the time true. Well, 98% of the time true. I've worked with businesses where they're like, tell us what we should do. And I'm like, I am not a
right.
consultant, I'm an ad agency.
Yeah.
Um, just make money, I guess. I don't know. You tell me. But more often than not, they know what their audience is. They know who's reacting to it. They know what they wanna build out and who they wanna be at the end of the day. It's up to us to listen. It's up to us to tease that out, when they're uncomfortable putting it into words themselves or images themselves. And so in everything we do, it's not about us. It's about the brand. So everything we touch contains honey. It is not honey, except for
I
maybe our
like it.
social media page. That one's us. That's
Yeah.
all us. Um,
Tell
but
me
even
this.
then, yeah.
Well, I want to know a little bit more about like doing people right. Because I know you talk about, at least in the communication I've seen from you, as well as I think on your website, you talk about the idea of people that have been overlooked maybe
Mhm.
by ad agencies or bigger marketing kind of firms.
Yeah.
What do you see your like more of your mission, and how do you see that playing out in the phrase doing people right practically in your work?
Yeah, so I'll start by shouting out somebody else who's been on the show, Des Wilson. I believe he was on, like, 5, 6 months ago, I can't remember. He's a creative director, he used to work I believe he used to work over at Lucky. Either way,
Okay.
um, uh, he and I had a chat about a year ago that really speaks to my attitude in advertising and the landscape of advertising, and I know he's presented on this to AAF because 'cause I've seen it, um, that the majority of advertising as an industry is overwhelmingly dudes in suits. It's over yeah, I think the number he mentioned the last time we talked was like 69% dudes in suits.
Yeah.
More often than not, it is straight white dudes in suits over a certain age. Um, and that leaves a giant chunk of businesses who are not represented at all. That leaves Black-owned businesses, that leaves a lot of veteran-owned businesses, that leaves women-owned businesses, LGBTQIA+ owned businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses, businesses that are just as valid as the businesses that get coverage by ad agencies who have just as great a products, who have just a as great a story, if not better, just completely left out to fend for themselves. Um, I think of a couple of our local clients that we've picked up in the last year and seen them grow, and conversations with them where they're like, "Without you guys, we would never sell what we're selling." It's like, "Why? Why not? You have a great product. You have a great product. You have a great relationship in the community. Why won't anyone touch you?" And it's, "Well, we're a mom and pop." Okay. Well, now you're getting ready to franchise. So, not a mom and pop anymore. Um that's kind of been at the core of what we do, and those are the kinds of clients we seek out. Often, especially in the last week or so, as we've been uh, doing different events and conferences, the question comes up: What is our industry? And our industry is the industries that get overlooked. That's really it. We try to skew more local.
Right.
But even then, with say like Piggly Wiggly, which is closer to a regional client, it's still a family business. And the kinds of people that Jay employs fall well within the demographic of the types of people and businesses that we praise, we love, and we want to work with and tell their story.
Why do you think bigger agencies don't work with these groups? Do you feel like it's like a money thing? Is it more of a prejudice thing? Is it more of just easily overlooked for some reason? I mean, what do you think the real like
Um,
dilemma is there?
I think a lot. I don't think there's a conscious prejudice necessarily. If you were to go and talk to people at top agencies who work as CEOs or whatever, they're not going to outwardly tell you that they have any kind of a prejudice. But I do think that there is a subtextual or a lower level prejudice to that, and I do think a lot of it comes from what they think is marketable
Mm,
in their experience, and I have found that to not necessarily be true. There's also a certain level of, and you see this in shows like Mad Men, of chasing the Cokes of the world. Um, and even as someone who's running a thing right now, that pull of we could land Buffalo Rock, we could have Pepsi, um, it pulls. I would love to be Don Draper representing Coke. Um, but at the end of the day, Coke doesn't need me. Sorry, that's a bad sell to Coke United. If you're watching Coke, I would love to have you as a
yeah.
client.
Well,
I take it all back. I would love to have your
it
business.
would empower so much of the other work that you plan to do, right? Just
Can
let
we
them write
can
the
we
check
cuss on
for it.
the Can we cuss on the
Of
podcast?
course. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, Pepsi, if you're listening, fuck Coke. Um, I hate those guys.
They
Their drinks
suck.
taste like trash. Um, hire
All
me.
right. You heard it
No,
here, people. Jacob's really just after the money. All this philosophy
no,
stuff is all bullshit compared to
it's
what's
all
really,
crap.
he
No,
just wants the money.
no. I mean, shoot, if we were chasing the money, we'd be doing a lot better than we are right now. We wouldn't be doing any of the stuff we're doing right now. No, at the end of the day, I do think there's a sort of like subconscious prejudice that chases the money. Right now, there's a big boom in tech. A lot of people are trying
Mm,
to hop on tech, and they have been for the last 10 years, as long as we've had a certain president, it seems. There's been a move to aggressively go into tech space, and tech is where the money is. I mean,
right.
not gonna lie, when I was, between jobs between University of Alabama and United Way, that pull of interviewing with Google or Facebook or whomever, those jobs were offering 165, $200,000 a year. Um, like, I felt it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But at the end of the day, like, Facebook doesn't need me. Sorry, Facebook, if you would like to hire me, I absolutely would love to work with you. Um, but at the end of the day, they've got armies of people who are just as, if not more talented than anything we can put together. So the people who need it are the people who are mom and pop shops on the ground level who are trying to build something special. And that's where we want to be.
Yeah. I found, because my niche that I sort of have um, found myself in, and sort of
Mhm.
intentionally put myself in, is school systems, and
Mm.
nobody's going to school systems saying that's where all the money is, and I would imagine a lot of these like mom and pops are similar. Like it's not like that's not where the money is necessarily,
Mm-mm.
but I think what we have instead is that's where you fit. That's where your storytelling is most needed.
Mhm.
Like that. I feel like it's not always, hey, where's the biggest bang for my buck or biggest dollar amount I can get for my time. It's more about the skills that I have, the interests I have, the heart that I have, and my
Mhm.
company has. Where does it fit the best?
Right.
And opportunities will bring more opportunity, and money will come. It may not be this thing that you're going to end up, you know, buying a brand new house, at the beach and the mountains and all that. But I think it's more about, are you doing what's true to you and true
Mhm.
to your business? So
Yeah.
props to you on that, man. I think you found your niche, and although Pepsi and Coke and all the others,
I'll take it. I'll take it.
but at the same time, I think you would stay true to what your heart is and true to what your business originally started as. So,
Mhm.
props to you on that. I love it,
Yeah.
man. And I do. I think more. We need to see more of you dripping in honey.
Maybe.
But maybe more to come. Because
I've got a
I've
bottle of
only
honey
seen
around
two
here.
photos so far, so I think you at least need to release more of those.
Yeah. Release the director's cut. So funny story on that. So I was doing some photo editing on some of those photos. Sarah edited them all. I like to tinker, so she sent me the raws as well. And I was playing with them. I was sitting in a coffee house, and I was moving it from my laptop to my phone because sometimes things look a little different, and I
Yeah.
wanted to see what it looked like on my phone. So I was airdropping it to myself, and as I'm about ready to tap the airdrop, somebody else's name pops up, and I send it to them on accident. Um, which is a waist up. It was a waist up shot, so they got to see all of it. Just some dude in the coffee shop dripping in honey from the waist up, looking totally naked on camera,
And
and
they're just looking
there's
around like, who sent
it
me
was me.
these?
That was me. I'm looking around like, what in the who, where? And of course, the more I look around, the more people look at me. So I don't know
Right.
who I've sent it to. I'm like, who's around here looking at my moobs? Like, what in the world? Um, so I just eventually gave up. I was like, yeah, that's right. You saw me covered in honey.
You got to
That's
switch from
right.
the fear
Yeah, you go
to
from
the
fear, you
utter
just embrace.
confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, just embrace it and be like, "Yeah, that's right. I sent it to you,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna send it to
That's
everyone
right.
else in this room."
The deep voice.
Yeah.
That's right. I love it, man. Well, I want to know this because and this touches on more of
Mhm.
what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But getting more into the dollar amounts kind of
Mhm.
stuff, and I say dollar amounts, obviously don't share dollar amounts for real unless you just
An
want
open
to.
book.
But that idea of like profits versus value, how do you how's that playing out for you? What's the cost of sticking to your values? But even more so, maybe what's the benefit of ignoring the cost or the
Yeah.
profit, so to speak? I say
Yeah.
ignoring. You're not ignoring, but at the same time, like you're saying this is where it's at for me.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm an open book, so I can share whatever. And if it helps a creative get into this space and gets them thinking like, "Hey, maybe I want to do this," please be my competition. We need more competition in this space. So please start a business. Come up. Um, so we our sales model is a little cheaper than other models in West Alabama, and that's intentional. So a 30-second spot for a mom and pop shop who barely makes $10,000 a month should not cost them 3,500 to $5,000. It just shouldn't because they can't pay it and they won't hire you for it.
Yeah,
Or they'll save up for 10 years to afford that one spot, get that one spot, and then maybe it doesn't perform the way they hoped they would, and they're out that amount of money. And that's something that we've been really conscious about in our first year is meeting people where they live. Um, and we know that we're not a one size like advertising communication in general is not a one size fits all. And so when it comes to, that we try to price ourselves within what is reasonable for a business to pay in Tuscaloosa as opposed to national industry standard rates. And we found that that's worked pretty well. And it's actually resulted in a lot of work for us. People who are like, for example, I love George's work. I'll have clients who are like, I love George's work, but man, I cannot afford to have him on set for 3 hours. It's like, I totally get it.
yeah,
Neither can I. Um, but his work is incredible.
yeah,
So how do we find a way to tell that story but not break the bank for these people? Maybe it's we shoot on different equipment that isn't necessarily a red camera. Maybe it's, what do we have to do? Maybe I don't come in with a giant lighting setup and I just do a simple, 3-point lighting, bam, call it. Or maybe we shoot it outside. Maybe we shoot it at magic hour so we don't need lighting. Like what can we do to cut that cost down so it benefits you? And our monthly retainer rate we found is reasonable enough that almost nobody can say no to it. Our standard retainer, depending on what it is somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 a month.
yeah,
Um, and most businesses that are making over 10K a month go, okay, that's reasonable. Yeah. And that's going to come back to me in returns in actual physical business. Let's go.
yeah,
So we've done pretty well on that front. Now, is it more work for less money? Absolutely. I mean, if you're taking on a client for 1,500 a month and you're putting up 3 to 5 social media posts plus their website plus their traditional and print advertising, and whatever, yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, and you're going to be busy. But the flip side of that is we see the returns in other ways, and it's really satisfying. Um, in
let
terms
me
of how much we made last year, if anyone's interested, including the write-off nonprofit work that we did last year, which I won't put a dollar value on because it doesn't matter, um, we crossed 100,000 in our first year, which is I was expecting to hit 60. And it kind of blows my mind that all things factored in, we crossed that in our first year. And it really speaks to how much we can grow. Because for the first like 3 or 4 months of the year, we were making maybe $1,500 a month, $3,000 a month, and then circa June, something about June, we locked in, and it was just straight after that. Um, we had some really cool clients that got us into some really visible spaces. Somehow we managed to get into Bryant Denny Stadium, um, on a combo box for one of our clients. So people all over the stadium got free advertising from us, which was crazy. And it's just kind of been boom, 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 boom after that. Um, it all comes back around to, what you put into this world is what you get out of it. You put good energy into the world, good energy is going to come right back. So it has been somewhat lucrative. We've been able to keep the lights on in the house. I've been able to well, partially pay for my dog's expensive food. Um, you
That's
know,
where the real money goes.
Lord, he eats like a king. Good
Yeah.
grief. But
Well,
yeah.
first of all, I appreciate your candidness with that. I think a lot of people don't know what to expect whenever they're first starting a business, and a lot of people don't know how to price themselves. It's such a difficult thing because when you do have people like Seed Creative, or you got people like Big
Mhm,
Communications, or anywhere, any of these other companies that seem like they're established, and you compare yourselves to them, it's really hard to see where do I fall in this, because
mhm,
I don't have 10 to 15 years of experience like George does in running his own business. I don't have those red cameras and all the other, or I don't show up to a set like Big Communications with 20 people, a 20-person crew.
mhm,
How do I price myself? Where do I fall in that? And a lot of people have a hard time. I mean, I still have a hard time
mhm,
finding where do I price myself even. I've got some clients that, if I'm charging them $2,000 or $3,000, that's a lot of money. And then I've got
mhm,
other clients that if I do a $15,000 job, it's like that's not unheard of for them. Like for them,
mhm,
they can do that. But you got to know your clients, you got to know your market, you got to know what's going to actually help them and what's going to hurt them. And definitely, I think there's plenty of clients out there. If you charge $5,000 or $6,000, even, you're hurting that client. Like you're
mhm,
putting them in a really difficult position.
mhm.
And ultimately, what you end up doing is making it to where you can't work with that client. And
Right.
some clients, like you're saying, they're worth working for.
Mhm.
Even if you're not making the you know bigger paycheck, there's other valuables that come from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll shout out another business that we've worked with, a client of ours, Druid City Makerspace here in town. I won't say how much they came in at. I don't like to share that kind of
I understand that.
information. But they didn't come in at a very high rate monthly. Um, but what they offered was trade on top of everything else. And so the ability to produce merch for essentially nothing, the ability to like the hats you have on screen, to say, I was actually in the room when those patches were made. I know the person who made those patches. So then when we give away our hats or we sell our hats or whatever, I know every bit of that process. And that's so cool to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and if we'd come in with Makerspace at three to $5,000 a month, um, I'm confident that we would be able to grow them exponentially, but I don't think they would have hired us in the first place.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't have.
Well, and those relationships matter. I
Mhm,
mean, especially whenever we're talking trade opportunities, or just even like the relationship that starts somewhere and then there's growth that you
mhm,
helped contribute to, like that matters a lot, and you get to grow together.
mhm,
So yeah, I totally understand. My very first client, I haven't changed their price at all since I started with them practically. And it's because I learned how to price myself with that client. Like I feel like they took a big chance with me. I want to sort of show respect to that. Not that
mhm.
we wouldn't ever raise the rate, but I still want to make sure that I treat them a little bit differently because I feel like they took a chance on me and I'm willing to continue investing in that chance.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could speak to that all day. And anyone who came on with us in the first 3 or 4 months took a huge risk. I remembered sitting so our first pitch officially as an agency, we weren't even like, the ink wasn't even dry on the LLC, and then we immediately walked into a pitch for 60K, a year, and I was not prepared. We didn't have a media kit together because what media had we done? I could come in with my personal portfolio from the last 10 or
Right.
12 years, sure, but that doesn't speak towards Honey. So I came in and we ended up not getting the client, but and I love the team that they work with now. I know everybody that works on that team, and I think they made the right call.
Fair enough.
One of those weird situations where it's like, you didn't go with us, but I like who you went with. Power to it. I'm not competitive at all. I think, well, I can go on about competition later. But it was that moment of, yeah, I owe so much to the people who took a risk on us in our first couple months, where we didn't have the website that's currently down right now. Um,
It's actually up now. I've
is
noticed.
it?
I saw it earlier. Yeah, yeah,
Is
it's
it?
up
I gotta
now.
look now.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no, it's AI slop. So I relaunched the site with Bluehost just to get something up, and it's
Okay.
just like
Yeah.
AI crap, and I gotta go back and actually put our work in there. Um, but yeah, again, speaking to that, I don't know what we do without our first 3 clients, and I don't plan on changing their rate anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to respect the people that respected you enough to say, "I'm going to invest in you." So,
Right.
all right, tell me this: what's next? What's upcoming for Honey Creative? What's next for you personally? What do you see on the horizon?
Um, Honey's growing a lot. It's almost growing faster than we anticipated. Um, we're we're looking to essentially double what we made in the last year in our second year, which is blowing my little monkey brain. I can't fathom it. To go from in 6, 7 years, whoop, dang, to go from over 6 or 7 years to go from a marketing strategist making under 40K to where we're projected to be at the end of 2026 is stark. And that we built it by just being authentically ourselves and saying that we can do this, we can do this, and we can do it in a way that treats people right. That is insane to me. So I'm looking forward to growing in the next year. We have some really cool new relationships that we're cultivating that'll probably kick in second quarter 2026. I won't say who those people are because I don't want to jinx it. Because they'll hear this podcast and be like, "Nope, uh, you thought you were all cocky and stuff." No. For me personally, I'm looking forward to having a little bit more time that I can spend with my wife, and her family. One of the things they maybe don't tell you about starting a business is all of your free time isn't free anymore.
Yeah,
It is tied to the business. It is 12, 14-hour days of figuring it out. And that is tough, especially, when life is happening around you and you're like, well, I'm sorry, I got to go into work today. Oh, it's Saturday. Oh, the game's on. It's so and so's birthday. Well, that sucks. I'll see if I can make it to the party. So I'm looking forward to having more of those opportunities to just spend time with my family, spend time with Angelique, spend time with our dog Biscuit. He's growing up. I'm missing it.
yeah.
Um,
There's
so yeah.
let me chime in on that a little bit. There's you spend years learning your craft. You spend years both in like classroom settings or YouTube University or something like that, and then you also spend years more working on it and actually like trial and error kind of process. And then you start a business and it's like, wait a minute, I didn't learn any of this stuff. Like,
What are
I,
taxes? What the
yeah,
heck?
yeah. So
I owe you every quarter? That's dumb.
Yeah,
Uh,
my first year, I'm still trying to figure out. I've got a tax person that
mhm.
I'm working with, but I'm
Yeah.
still trying to figure out right now, how bad did I screw myself up? That's what I want to
Mhm.
know. Like I like thankfully I made money, I was able to pay bills, but now what is it going to cost me? So
That is the
it's
biggest
always one of
anxiety
those.
for me right now.
Yeah.
We also have a tax person. We just turned in our folder yesterday, and I remembered dropping it off and feeling like a parent leaving their child on the first day of school. Like I didn't want to actually leave it there because I was like, what if? And she was like, believe me, it'll be fine. We'll take care of it. Even if you
Yeah.
screwed it up, we'll figure it out. And I'm like,
I have 4 children, so by the time the
yeah,
4th one was dropped off, we kicked them out the door.
cool, sweet. So that's gonna be taxes in a
Yeah,
couple years.
exactly.
We're just like,
Later
ah,
on.
screw it. I wrote it on the back of toilet paper. Here you go.
Yeah, good luck deciphering it.
Good, yeah.
Definitely. Well, I'm
QuickBooks, what's that?
excited. I'm excited for Honey Creative, man. I think I love the visuals. I love the mission behind it. I love the intentionality behind like how those things work together right now. I love your energy that you've brought. I appreciate um, just what the work you're doing, but even more than that, sort of the person behind it that's doing it. So props to you, props to Honey Creative, and if there's ever any opportunity that we can work together, or collaborate at some point, I would love to, man.
Oh,
But I'm
absolutely.
excited for you, big time.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, we're actually expanding into more school stuff, so I will absolutely hit you up
Yeah, would
as
love
I
to.
hear more on that front, but that's it's a hot minute
Yes.
away.
Exactly. Well, I always like to ask people who inspires you. Is there somebody that you get a chance or you have gotten a chance to work alongside? Maybe somebody that you watch from afar? Who is it that you learn from or that pushes you to another level creatively?
Hmm. Yeah, okay. I have a mentor. He and I worked on shows for 10, 15 years together, and Steve is probably the closest I have to to a straight up mentor. It's very rare that you meet somebody and you're like, "That's who I wanna be when I grow up." Like, I want to copy paste this human being and be that person. And Steve Birch is 100% that person for me. And the best piece of advice I ever got from him, and this is kind of transitioned into a sort of mantra that I live my life behind, is you are your name. Whenever it's one of the few things that you can control in your life. You can't control being born. You can't control how you die. You can't control the world that you're born into, but you can control what people think of you when you walk in a room to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And the way you control that is through the work you put into the world and the attitude that you bring and the energy that you bring. And so I remembered Steve and I were talking, and he was like, "You are your name, and you are the person who gets to decide what that name means, and how that name makes people feel when they say your name and you're not in the room." And that has stuck with me for over a decade, and it's probably the most for me, one of the most powerful things I've heard. Um, so that's again, I guess to go back into the business, that's who we are. We are our name, and we get to decide what that name means. And for us, that means treating people well, or
Yeah.
as our tagline is, doing people right.
I like it, man. Well, I mean, I guess the only other issue is what if there's somebody else out there with the same name, right?
Aha, there is.
I actually
Yeah.
knew I knew a Jacob Crawford. I think his first name's Jacob. He
I'm
was a
so sorry.
student at one of the schools that I taught. He's graduated now. And there's actually another Brian Pope that does video work right here in Shelby County where I
Really?
live. Yeah, he's I actually taught his daughter. I have a Piper. My
Huh.
youngest is Piper Pope. It's a lot of P's. Well, his oldest daughter is Piper Pope, and I taught
Huh.
her when she was in high school. So I guess uh, let's see, what was sorry, Steve said that it's
Steve, yeah, Steve Birch. It's
you control your name.
mhm,
Yeah,
yeah,
unless somebody else has named the same.
unless somebody else has the same name, in which case you control their name.
Yeah,
Haha,
yeah, there you go. No, I
but
think that's
yeah.
great. It's all about reputation and what you're known for.
Mhm,
So, well, like I said, man, I admire what Honey Creative is being known for, what it's becoming, what you're shaping it as. So, props to you on that, and I look forward to seeing a lot more from you. But that's all that I've got. I feel like I imagine there's got to be a honey shot of you in this pose, maybe head tilted back a
so
little bit more.
we tried to do that, and, Sarah replied that she's married, so we couldn't do that one.
I mean, they
Because I
do,
wanted
what is it?
when we in the yes and process, I was like, I wanna recreate the Burt Reynolds famous, like, Burt Reynolds, I think it was, like, n nude shot where it's, like, him and he's, like, lying sideways. I was like, "I wanna recreate that shot," and
He's
she's like, "I'm
covered just enough.
covered just enough with his hand that you don't actually see anything."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she was like, I'm married." And I was like, "Oh, no. There is none of that in this." I was like, "This is purely artistic." And she was like,
She had to
it's
draw the
just
line
yeah,
somewhere.
I gotta she
Yeah.
was like, "At some point, I'm gonna have to edit these photos, and my husband will watch me over my shoulder editing photos of a nude dude covered in honey." And I was like, "Yeah, it's fair."
So, what is this photo? What is this production from?
So yeah, I was playing Caliban. So we were doing theater in the park. It was way too hot outside that year, and so we there was a theater space that allowed us to come in. So we took all of our theater in the park stuff, we brought it inside, used the lights that were actually up in the theater,
No,
and we did
no
the
clamp
Tempest.
lights.
No clamp lights for that one. We used real lights for that one. But in keeping to the fly by night theater, it was basically house lights. Like
Yeah,
we didn't do anything fancy, like no light show to it. It was just we lit it up so you can see their faces. That's it. Period.
yeah,
In keeping with that like super minimal kind of thing. The only furniture that we have for those shows, like you can kind of see is benches and maybe a ladder that you can hang lattice and crap off of. Like that's it. That's all they have. And a sheet back in the back so that if somebody needs to change, they can go out there and change and come back on. But costume changes were usually like I add a vest. Like
yeah.
it's nothing huge. But yeah, I was playing Caliban in Tempest.
Tell me this, and this will be sort of the last question that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
wrap on. How much of that plays into the work you do now? How much of that just bare bones production, but but really telling a great story
Mhm.
in spite of the limitations? It's maybe self-imposed limitations. I mean, y'all could have done a theater performance, but you decided to do it outside with shop lights instead of
Yeah.
stage
Yeah.
lights.
So yeah, and it's interesting because I'm seeing the through line you're drawing here, and I think you're right on. And at the end of the day, that Shakespeare in the Park did, what its goal was to make Shakespeare accessible to anybody. They were free shows. You can walk up, watch 15 minutes and walk away. Um, More often than not, we ended up with like 300 people sitting on the side of a hill watching us uh, act like crazy people out by the river. Um, but yeah, so on one hand, that plays in a lot. On the other hand, the stripped down minimalism I have found through my work, and a lot of it's working with Rude Mechanicals, is if you have a good story, it doesn't matter what you shoot it with. If you have something that's compelling, as a videographer, as a photographer, you can shoot it on a Game Boy. You can shoot it on your phone. You can shoot it on a Polaroid camera. It doesn't matter because if the story's there, if it has that emotional beat, you don't need a budget. You just don't.
Yeah.
Um, because it will work. I mentioned the Bama Blitz ad from a couple years ago. Our budget for that was nothing. Um, and we ended up in 48 hours raising over $26,000 um, with a $0 budget. And that's kind of where we come from. That's where Honey really has its roots is we don't have a budget. So how do we make it work and make it look like something that is a lot more expensive than it is? And how do we tell an emotional beat that moves people, genuinely moves people, whether it's laughing, whether it's crying, it doesn't matter. Finding that emotional beat and getting there. And we like to get weird with it too. That's fun.
It's my turn for a soundbite, right?
Go for
It's
it.
not a it's not about the budget. It's about the impact.
Yep. 100%.
Love
100%.
it. Love it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I really did appreciate you, first of
Yeah.
all, just following along on the podcast. I appreciate you communicating with me on Instagram. And I appreciate you sitting down and having this conversation with me today, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, longtime listener, first time caller, glad to be on the show. Um, Thank you so much for making time for us.
Love it. Love it. Looking forward to seeing more from Honey Creative.